I'm a massive believer that we need to tip the idea of what success is on its head. I think the reason a lot of autistic people are so unhappy is because they're trying to check boxes, like, right, first I get married, then I have children, then I do this. And actually, it doesn't always have to. Well, I think a lot of people are unhappy, not just autistic people, because they're trying to like follow this set path. But I think for autistic people, it's even more difficult in some ways with the social expectations and all of that. And I
hear someone once told me that the current kind of model for success was set by straight, upper class, white, middle, kind of the men.
Yeah, most things are.
Yeah.
Cisgender, straight, white men who are, you know, at least partially well off.
Everyone else is just screwed basically in that system.
Definitely. And that's the whole premise, because it's a mess. And my big thing on it is I want it to be a book. Obviously it's aimed at autistic people, but I want it to be a book that neurotypical people read and they're like, oh my god, this turns my idea of success. Because why is it, right, as neurotypicals, as non-neurotypicals, as autistic people, we will read all of these neurotypical self-help books to try and understand ourselves and like get better, and yet autism books are meant to just be read by us, and that doesn't make sense to my head. So I'm like, I'm writing an autism book, but I sort of want everybody to read it, please. I feel like, you know, the only autism books really, apart from like close loved ones of autistic people, the only kind of autism books that the general population reads are like those feel-good, inspirational, or like the sorrowful ones, you know, like they're either like really sad or like really uplifting, and they've been reduced to like one of these two things, and it just really frustrates me. It's quite funny actually, because I read a lot of post-apocalyptic kind of dystopian, sometimes young adult fiction, and quite a few of the characters that I've noticed in that, like the survivors, are autistic or have a lot of autistic traits, you know. And I do think, I know that's a little bit ridiculous, but I think in a lot of ways autistic people have got a fair bit to teach non-autistic people, just in the way that we can learn from them, you know. I agree, and I think we would definitely be the ones surviving in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like, we've all got so many skills that we've spent our time learning and thinking about, and I guess in this situation, sort of bringing it onto topic, seeing us in the midst of a global pandemic, which is a little bit apocalyptic feeling, a lot of the people I know who are least phased by it are autistic. And like, there's a significant chunk who are phased and autistic, but for a lot of us as autistic people, we've been building the skills that you need to be in isolation just through our lives, whether that's by choice or not by choice.
I think our brains are just naturally, we are amazing at planning, or most of us are amazing at planning. I mean, I know ADHD can bring a whole other dimension to planning, but on the whole, we do have this thing of routine and being able to stick to routine and all of that, which I think has been really important for me personally at this time anyway. But yeah, I think I've certainly found that kind of autistic people, you know, kind of grand generalization here, are slightly more adapted to this kind of lockdown scenario than maybe some neurotypicals.
Yeah,
which is interesting, isn't it? Because we're supposedly the ones with the inflexible thought and like the inflexible way of doing life, but there's a level of adaptability that comes just through. For me, I'm crap at planning, but I'm really good at learning new skills. So anything within this where it's like an adaptability on skills-based things, I'm like, great, fantastic, I can go straight away.
just kind of really hope that there are some lessons taken from this afterwards, because I kind of feel like, and this again is a generalization, I kind of feel like the rest of the world is like struggling with isolation in the way that we normally struggle with socialization and sensory overload and all of that. And I feel like all the kind of extroverts are out there desperately trying to like connect with each other, and they're posting like 50 million statuses a day and starting all these different things, and it's lovely to see people connected, don't get me wrong, and it's not me, you know, I'm not mocking them, but I feel like they're getting a glimpse into what it's like for us, and now we're the ones that are like, this kind of suits me a little bit. And I know that's not everyone, but quite a few autistic people I've spoken to have said, you know, I'm used to isolation. I don't have to deal with a lot of the stresses I usually have to deal with. And, you know, I think that there is a lesson in that perhaps they can understand just how uncertain we might feel usually and how difficult that's been for them. And perhaps that'll, you know, give that empathy as to how difficult things are for us.
I think that word certainty is really important, because we particularly me, I find uncertainty so difficult to deal with on my average day, you know, when I'm working, even just down to like agendas for meetings. If there's no agenda, like I that freaks me out. And everyone around me is going, well, we'll just go with the flow. And I'm like, no. Like, everyone's feeling really uncertain because no one knows what's going to happen with COVID. You know, the whole world has been in this state of kind of uncertainty. And I feel like actually that's how I feel a lot of the time in the normal world. Yeah. And it's quite nice for other people. Not, I wouldn't say nice, but it's kind of like now you get what it means to feel uncertain, as like I do when I'm trying to navigate your world.
It almost feels like a relief, doesn't it? You know, not to be the minority that is feeling that adrift. You know, like other people feel it as well.
It's an interesting one for me. So I'm an extroverted autistic person. And I really love people. I'm fascinated by people. I'm sort of that very people are my special interest kind of person. And so I've had a year of isolation because of chronic illness where I really, really, really struggled because nobody else was sort of on that same path as me. The other people who were maybe also available tended to be more introvert. All of my extrovert friends were out doing extrovert things. So for me, actually, having all of the extroverts now be on downtime is really good because I'm getting to do a lot of that social observing, even if I'm not necessarily partaking. I just like being around people and seeing them and working out what they're doing and how they're working things. So there's been a real relief for me in the like, oh my God, okay, I'm often forced into isolation and I don't like it, but at least now there's other people and it's not as stressful, so it becomes more predictable. And yeah, but then even with that, I don't know if this has been a thing for either of you two, I've found it really hard to be the one starting things because I don't want to make other people uncomfortable or to be like, how do I get involved with things? Like everybody else seems to have something on every night and I'm still there like, hello, I would like some social plans, please. Because I don't know what's the protocol for inviting yourself to people's things, right? It's completely different.
But just set up your own thing and invite people, because like one group of my friends, and I have section groups of friends, let's not get into the compartmentalization of that, but one group of my friends, we have a weekly like virtual pub quiz night now via Zoom once a week, and actually we probably see each other more than we did, and it's lovely. And I think just send some Zoom invites out, see what people want to do, for sure. Or just say, I'd love to get involved in this or this if anyone's doing it, and I'm sure people will come back. And I think for me, honestly, I'm a bit of a mix between the two, Emily. I'm kind of like extrovert and introvert, and I kind of flick back and forth. And what I found is I was pretty tired and, worrying about burnout just before all this happened, to be honest. And so it's just been a relief to be able to rest and try and refocus myself. And, I just finished my master's before Christmas, and that's been a huge, I don't know, it's been a weird transition to cope with, really, in a way. I don't know, even though I'm relieved that it's done and I'm happy, and but it's been strange. And I think work has been busy, and physically I have all these issues as well, and I think I just needed a break. And so I'm quite happy to kind of take that break, and I'm happy to see my friends when this is all over, but I'm also kind of coping okay with it. I know that not everyone is, so I don't want to sound smug or anything like that. That's certainly not my intention. But I think a lot of the thing with me as well, sorry I'm rambling now, is that I'm always waiting for a crisis, and then when the crisis happens I'm like, chill, we got this, so once this is all over I'm going to be freaking out again. But this is Father Ted episode. I don't know if either of you watch Father Ted.
Oh yeah.
Where like he's on the plane and the plane is going down and he's like in the zone, like solving it all, like, oh my god, I'm always worried and now I'm in a crisis, I'm solving it. And then the plane lands and he's gone out to fix the wheel, and like 2 weeks later he's still wrapped around the wheel, like, and that's kind of what I feel like I'll be like, like I'm cool now, I'm chill, like, and then I'm just gonna be a mess going back to reality. I'm kind of worried about that.
I think that's the same for me, because I'm an introverted autistic. I'm like, people. And like my work is very intense with people, and it's also quite unpredictable. So it all depends on when conferences are on and when meetings are on and all that. And when I'm in those situations, I have to. It's very intense, people-y stuff that I don't like, but I have to do for kind of progressing my work. And it's been really nice. I found it quite nice that instead of having to go and be involved in that kind of like world, people actually ask me first, is this okay for you? Which they didn't do before. They would just be like, oh, there's this conference and you need to turn up, and you need to do all the kind of the annoying small talk stuff. Whereas now they're like, right, we're doing a Zoom meeting, you can come and join if you want, you can sit and be quiet and watch, and I'm finding it a lot more accessible in that way, because I'm not being forced into those really people-y situations that make me uncomfortable. And I've had a really nice break actually from not having to do conferences and events and the meetings and all those things. But then I have that thing in the back of my mind, like, we're all going to have to start transitioning back into normal life, and I'm going to have to go back into those things. And I know that's going to be like a big barrier now, because I've gotten into my nice little routine for lockdown. And going back out of that is going to be.
And the thing is I really enjoy the training and the conferences and all of that while I'm doing it. I just find that beforehand and afterwards it takes a massive toll on me, and then I have a lot less spoons than I would like for other things. So like I'm kind of trying to Marie Kondo my house a little bit now, and this has been like, my house has been kind of getting increasingly out of control and disorganized for the past 2-3 years while I've been studying and working, because I just haven't had the spoon. So I'm kind of like, right, I've put all this weird pressure on myself inside lockdown that I'm gonna solve the whole house, learn a new language, this is the only chance I'm gonna get, this break from reality, to do all these things, gardening. I'm like, so I've put that kind of weird pressure on myself in a way, but I think it's because usually I don't have the spoons for a lot of things, like my kind of crafty interests that I enjoy, or organising the place, or things like that, you know, gardening, and I'm worried about that, losing those spoons again. Yeah, and I'm worried about my daughter going back to school because she really hates it, and she's been so much happier just being at home, honestly, and just being with her online friends. And yeah, it's and also, sorry, being chronically ill, I feel kind of safe now because we've been kind of isolating as much as we can, taking lots of precautions. I'm worried about a phased exit. Well, I'm worried about any exit to lockdown and what that would mean for somebody who has so many vulnerability factors. But yeah, I think that's going to be the hardest bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm finding quite challenging to work out is not knowing when it's going to end. And I actually have a slightly different experience to the two of you, because I'd been in my own isolation for a year, and I'd been building my skills towards going back to work, starting to leave the house, starting to do all of these things, and then the plan has been taken away. So I think for me, there's been a bit of a sort of feeling of, I don't really know what's happening. Oh my goodness. And especially because I've gone from having to have so many appointments all the time to now I'm just sort of in my house and I haven't left my house for a while. It is that weird thing of, I sort of wanted to go back to normal, but I don't want it to go back to normal yet because I don't think that's safe. But then equally, what will normal even be?